a short, soothing practice to support you if you've been doing a lot of inner child work. So if you're doing any kind of therapy or personal development work or coaching, you might have encountered already this idea of working with the inner child. These parts of ourselves that carry wounds, grief, and histories of trauma from our childhood, who tend to crop up at certain times, maybe when we experience similar pain or similar distress. And as we work with these inner child parts, it can feel quite vulnerable to do that kind of work because we're sort of entering back into that state of childlikeness. So this is a short practice that's intended to support that kind of work. So it's a somatic practice, it's body-based, and it's drawing from Hatha Yoga. And we're going to do lots of varieties of child's pose, as well as a few gentle hip openers as well. And the intention is not that the movement can replace the inner work, but rather that through finding soothing, grounding, comforting postures in our body, we can support the inner work that we're doing. I am going to use a block for this practice. Just towards the end, we're going to finish with some weighted breath. Now, if you don't have a block, this is a cork block, so it's got a little bit of weight to it. Anything with a kind of gentle weight like this would be great. So a hot water bottle, maybe a wheat bag, even just a couple of books or like a heavy hardback book would be great. And we're just going to use that at the end, but I'll pop that away to one side for now. And we are going to make a start in child's pose. So coming down with your bottom on your knees, on your feet, sorry, just widen your knees just as far apart as is initially comfortable for you. I just like them to be wide enough so that my tummy can kind of drop down in between my knees. I don't really like that feeling of pressure, but some people really like the knees together and that feeling of pressure as you lean forward. And then just keeping your your seat on your feet, just walking your hands forward, just until you can stretch your hands out ahead of you to a comfortable stretch, and then bringing your forehead down to the ground. And we're just going to start here, letting our arms relax onto the ground, feeling that gentle stretch through the low back, and focusing on the feeling of being down and close to the ground. Letting your forehead press onto the mat, letting your back body be heavy on the mat, and feeling the support that being close to the ground and face down to the ground can give you. Just take a couple of nice big breaths here and just feel that expansion across the skin of your back. Feeling the different sensation of breathing deeply, noticing how you can care for and support your body with your breath. We're just going to lift our head up slightly and just walk your hands out to the right, just until they're off the mat. You could bring your left hand over your right if you like, or you can just have them side by side, and then coming back down with your head to the mat in this lateral stretch. So keeping your hips in the same position, but we're just stretching through our left hand side. Take a nice deep breath. And then lift your head up, and we'll just walk our hands over to the other side. Stretching out, maybe crossing a hand over if you did that before, or just keeping them side by side and lowering back down to this nice stretch. Taking a nice breath here. And then coming back to center, we'll just walk our hands in. Coming up to tabletop pose. So knees underneath your hips, hands underneath your shoulders. Draw your stomach in to support your back. And we'll just take cat-cow 5 rounds. So on an inhale, dropping your belly down, curving your tailbone up, looking forward. And on the exhale, pressing the floor away from you, pressing your spine into a nice steep curve. 4 more like that. So dropping in and pushing away. Taking one more. Coming back to a neutral spine, and then we're just going to walk our hands forward, keeping our knees and hips where they are. Just lower your forehead down to the mat into this little happy puppy pose. Stretch your arms out. Push your hips back and up a little bit. Sucking your stomach in to support your low back. So you should be getting a really lovely stretch here through the underarms, maybe across the top of the arms. Couple of nice big breaths here. And then we're just going to come forward onto our forearms, lower yourself down onto your belly, and just cross one hand over another and bring your forehead down to rest on them. And we'll just pause in this position for a moment. Just feeling that pressure on your abdomen, with the floor pushing up and your body pushing down. Noticing the pressure along the thighs, the tops of the feet and the arms. And then if you'd like, you can just bring into a gentle rocking sensation through the hips, just rocking them from side to side, just loosening up your lower back a little bit. Letting your legs be loose and wobbly on the mat. Just rocking your hips side to side. Coming back to stillness. We're just going to widen our feet out to the sides of the mat. And once your knees are kind of on the edges of the mat, just lifting your feet up towards the ceiling. And we'll just start dropping our feet side to side, a little windscreen wiper action. So it's just starting to loosen up the hips a little bit. You might find you can take the knees a little bit wider as you take this action. And then let's pause, let's bring the soles of the feet together and just let your feet drop down towards the mat. Now unless you have very, very loose hips, it's unlikely that they're going to come all the way down to the mat. That's totally fine, just pressing the feet together in a little belly butterfly and just feeling that nice stretch through the hip flexors. Bring the feet back up, just try those windscreen wipers again. And then once more, let's just widen the knees, press the feet together. Just see if they drop down a little bit further this time. One big breath here. And then we'll just stretch our legs out long. Walk your feet back into their hip width apart. Let your feet rest onto the mat. And we're going to come up into a sphinx pose. So lifting your head, lifting your upper body, just so that you can place the lower part of your arms down on your mat. Palms flat in front of you. And just pressing up so you can look straight ahead. Collarbones wide, shoulder blades pointing back. Taking a nice big breath into this lower back stretch. If you feel any pinching or compression in your lower spine, just walk your hands out a little bit further to make the curve a little bit lower. We're just going to bring our left forearm to a 45-degree angle on the mat. Bring the right hand behind you, pressing up on your fingertips, and just turn your upper body so that you can look back towards your feet. Just a nice upper body stretch. Bring your arm back. 45-degree angle with your right arm now, left arm out to your side. Push yourself up a little bit so that you can look back over your left shoulder. Nice stretch. Calming back to centre. And then we're just going to push ourselves up, walk yourself back in, and this time we're going to come down into a wide-legged child's pose. So bringing your big toes together, your knees about as wide as the mat, maybe a little less, whatever's comfortable for you. And walking your hands forward in the same way, bringing yourself down to the ground. Feeling a slight difference in this pose. Maybe a bit more looseness in your hips now. But again, that nice pressure in your forehead. And again, just seeing that you can get really heavy onto the mat in this pose. We're going to lift our head up like last time, but this time pressing into your right hand, thread your left arm underneath your chest, and then bring your head back down to the mat into this broken wing variation. This is just going to give you a nice stretch across your left shoulder and the top of your left arm. Breathing deeply here. Let yourself get heavy. Press into your right hand to lift up. Take that left arm out. And let's just change sides. So threading your right arm underneath. Bring yourself back down. Letting your head get heavy on the mat. Letting your shoulder relax underneath you. 3 nice deep breaths. Press into your left hand to lift yourself up. Bring that arm forward and then just walk it in a little bit, bringing your hands out towards the edges of the mat, bringing your knees closer together, and then coming forward onto your knees, tuck your toes under, press into your hands, press your seat up towards the ceiling into downward facing dog. This is our only active pose. So in downward dog, see if you can just turn your underarms in towards one another, so nice active engagement through your shoulders. Feet about hip width apart, and maybe just try walking out the feet, pedaling them out, keeping your seat lifted up, pointing towards the ceiling, letting your head really hang down, heavy like a bowling ball. Just nice, long, complete stretch for the back body. Coming to stillness for a moment, just hold the stretch for a breath. And then bring your knees slowly back down. Bring your hands back in underneath your shoulders. And now we're going to widen our knees out towards the edges of the mat again. And turn your feet to point outwards. And just widen your knees slightly, coming down into this froggy pose. So you can prop yourself up on your forearms so that your back is nice and straight. Knees, hips and feet all turning outwards. You could stay still here, or you could bring in a little bit of a gentle rocking motion again. Just loosening through those hips. You really don't have to go very deep in this one. Taking those 3 nice releasing breaths again, maybe in through the nose, out through the mouth. Just reminding yourself that you're safe, that you're not a child anymore, that you're an adult, that you're taking care of yourself. back to stillness, and then we'll just turn our feet back in, wiggle your knees back in. Bring your knees together and your feet together on the mat. Just bring your seat back down, and we're going to come into a little supported seed child's pose now. So keeping feet together, knees together. Just bring one hand inside and up the other, like a sort of cupping motion. And then as you bring your forehead down to the mat, just let your forehead rest in your hands so that you're supporting your hands. This lovely gesture of support, of care, of nurturing. Just breathe into the sensation of your forehead being held. Of being safe and being contained. Of being loved. Two more breaths here. When you're ready, lifting your head up, press your hands into the ground to come back up. Just pause for a moment in this little kneeling position. And then we're just going to drop our hips to one side, rolling off. And we're going to come down flat onto our back. And this is where we're going to use the block or your weight. Come down onto the mat. Keeping your feet on the mat in this nice constructive rest, we're just going to place the block or whatever weight you're using over your abdomen, and then let your arms relax at your side. And all we're going to do is just practice some deep belly breathing, but with the weight. So this is going to give us a lovely proprioceptive input in the same way that pressing our forehead or our belly down into the mat in all those child's poses helps us to feel grounded and safe and secure. So having a little bit of a weight on our abdomen as we breathe just gives a bit of biofeedback to the body, helps us to know where we are in space, and helps to generate that feeling of physical safety and awareness of our body, and awareness that we're not in a child's body anymore. So as you breathe in, just really focus on breathing into your abdomen, puffing up your belly so that that block lifts, and on the exhale, letting all the air leave your abdomen so the block falls. So breathing deep into the abdomen and finding that gentle motion. Really focusing on the feeling of the weight on your abdomen. Noticing also your feet on the mat, the back of your head, your shoulder blades, your arms, your seat, your hips all pressing into the mat.